In today's world, customers are digitally empowered with high expectations, not just your high-quality products, but also the speed and flexibility in which your company delivers them. This means that you need to apply this agility across the entire organization and more than ever focus on integrated application development approaches that focus on velocity and agility. This is where DevOps comes in.
And Rob, thank you for spending the time. We at Compuware believe in everything you just said, and we're constantly fixated from a product management standpoint on making sure we're doing the proper research and investigation to make sure we understand the trends and the needs and the obstacles of our customers. So we actually commissioned a study with you all to take a deeper dive into the subjects that you just talked about. So you want to give us a sense of the initial findings?
Absolutely. The results showed that there were conflicts in achieving this vision, Chris. First, the long reported death of the mainframe is not true. The importance of the mainframe was reinforced. In fact, the vast majority of organisations in the study, 96%, rely on the mainframe for new business initiatives. Does this surprise you?
Not at all. I mean, Compuware and actually BMC have done a series of surveys over the last few years. And in every instance, we found similar results, that 90% or nearly 90% of CIOs believe the mainframe was going to be strategic to their enterprises for a decade and beyond. And it's really for three good business reasons. One is that the mainframe is an absolute engineering marvel. The postmodern mainframe, which is the Z13, and there's another release coming out soon, is the most advanced business compute platform in the world. The second thing is all that wonderful code that runs on the mainframe, and it's literally hundreds of billions of lines in the aggregate that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The last thing you want to do is disrupt working code. That's priceless and it's gold. And the third thing is that these modern trends around digital and engaging customers through the web and mobile, that creates a bursting effect of transactions on the system of record platform, which for large enterprises is the mainframe. So it causes a surge, if you will, in the use of the mainframe. And the mainframe uniquely allows those workloads to handle the performance issues, handle the reliability necessities that you've got to have and the security. So for those collections of reasons, that's why people are sticking to the mainframe. And cynics want to believe that the mainframe's in a state of decline. In truth, the number of MIPS, which is the aggregate base of workload across the planet, is larger today than it has ever been. And these ideas that people are crying for the death of the mainframe, in truth, what people should be saying is that long live the mainframe, because it's going to be an absolute necessity for decades to come.
Chris, but here's the problem. The survey found that developing and delivering applications on the mainframe does not keep up with the pace that customers demand. According to the survey, participants experienced long release cycles to customer-facing apps, project scopes that constantly reduce to deliver on time. And we found that often work around the mainframe by building systems in newer technologies to avoid it. All of this is counterproductive to the speed, agility, and flexibility that companies require to deliver great customer experiences. How does Compuware think about this?
We think it stinks. In reality, I think it's a reflection of the fact that the strategies for mainframe modernization of old have proven to be very disappointing in terms of their results. And there's really three things that we found in the findings that we commissioned from you all, and three things that we see generally is in terms of the strategy for mainframe modernization. The first is a rip and replace, where people come to the conclusion that they should basically convert all of the applications to some more modern language on a new platform. And that's proven to be a fool's errand in terms of both a waste of money and a waste of time. And there's a lot of reasons that I could go into why it is, but for every questionable success there's been in actually doing it, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of unquestionable failures, usually ending in litigation between vendors and customers. So that's proven to be a flawed strategy. The second one is one where people basically allow the mainframe to act as a silo or continue to act as a silo and almost look at it as a business as usual situation. And for the rest of the business, the people that work on the distributed side or the cloud or in the web, they're trying to adopt DevOps. They're trying to adopt Agile. And this idea of trying to have these two different cultures usually ends up in a culture war. I mean, I talk about the fact that you basically are creating a house divided against itself because you've got competing cultures, you've got competing processes, you've got competing tools. And that's shown actually to decrease productivity, not increase productivity. So that's been a flawed approach. And then the third one is an odd one where people talk about modernizing on the mainframe. And they say it in words, but when you actually get under the covers in terms of actions, they're not affecting the culture really. They're not going from waterfall to agile, which is absolute necessity. And they're not retooling in a way that's necessary to get the mainframe to kind of the next level in responding to these digital demands. So all three of these approaches, which kind of dominate the thinking of old, have proven to all be kind of cul-de-sacs in terms of getting people boxed into a corner that's showing the kind of results that you're talking about. So again, I think customers are looking for a new and better and different and a viable and worthy approach.
That's right, Chris. Over 40% of those that move apps off the mainframe leave their apps unsecure, increase costs, experience lower performance, and extend project timelines. Those working around the mainframe increase complexity of their systems, increase their costs, and of course, introduce security risks. And those modernising on the mainframe struggle with long transition times, meeting performance expectations, and inability to understand business rules and programming logic. Chris, the missing link is applying DevOps practices to the mainframe. For instance, giving developers a modern development environment, leveraging agile practices with smaller, more frequent changes, linking code to automated testing tools to ensure that code is fit for purpose, and finally, automated deployment tools with analytics, which allow the mainframe to move at the speed of business, unleashing the power of the mainframe to deliver at speed of business, respond faster to business needs, improve collaboration between silos, and deliver product and service quality that ultimately delivers better customer experience.
I think you're exactly right, and that really is kind of the total solution in terms of what customers want, the fourth option. But I'd like to kind of share a little bit more context. When I think about the digital age and responding to the digital age, not only from our own experience at Compuware, and I would put us at this point up against any company in the world from a mainframe perspective in terms of DevOps and Agile, but also in talking to customers, the way they think about it is that you're always trying to get a sense of ideas about how to serve customers, their customers, how to engage customers, how to collaborate with customers, how to create customer experiences. And you want to bring those ideas into the business, and increasingly those ideas are going to have digital as an element of them, if not all of it. And bring those ideas in and figure out how to fashion them down to epics and stories, and then create deliverables that actually turn the crank in making those ideas into realities. And those things should be looked at as things that are done fast, iteratively, which is what you've just said, and one that's done continuously, because traditional, large companies that have had the same competitors for years and years, the new age companies that they're competing against are technology companies. So this isn't a one-time event. I mean, these ideas and these experiences are things that are continuously being improved over and over again. So when you kind of center the world on ideas rather than technical mumbo-jumbo, you start to understand that these ideas, when they come in, aren't easily divisible between systems of record and systems of engagement. They don't come in nice packages with ribbons on them, and one's on one side and one's on the other side. Almost any that's worthy and has value in customers' eyes actually affects both. So it requires changes and modifications to both in an orchestrated way. So this idea of running it in two different ways is, I think, is just wrong, dead wrong. So then you got to take it down another step. If that's true, and these ideas are not easily divisible and actually require a coordinated effort in ways that you described, the next step is you've got to kill your mainframe silos. They can't exist anymore. You got to take down those walls, and you've got to assume the mainframe, especially the idea of development, into a DevOps culture. You've got to go and move the needle from maintenance towards innovation. You've got to adopt things that are more iterative in terms of the techniques and processes you use. You got to go from waterfall and start to move the needle towards agile. And on the tooling side, you got to get rid of these esoteric tools that are outdated and inferior, and use tools in the mainframe that get rid of all those differences about the mainframe, make a difference only in code from other platforms or syntax from other platforms, but then stop at the edge of the mainframe, and then allow DevOps tools to gain dominion over the platform. Because whether customers like it or not, the DevOps artisans, either by default or by design, are going to have to master that mainframe and take responsibility for it. And they're going to come to the party with their favorite tools that they love and they prefer. And they've got to have the ability to get those tools to work on the mainframe. And mainframe tools, as they currently exist for most customers, aren't in a state where that can be done. So those are the things that have got to, in a sense, take place in reaction to it to get to your solution. Compuware actually has done some help to customers, because customers usually agree with what we've just said. But they ask, what do I do? What are the steps that I take? So we've actually just created an ebook called The 10 Steps to Mainframe Agility that helps customers to understand what's in total required to get this transformed state of a modernized mainframe, where they should start themselves to develop a plan, to develop priorities, so that they can actually do and create a sense of sequence towards the ends of what you described. And just as kind of a parting thought, I was just at a customer advisory council for Compuware last week. And one of the interesting discussion points was the fact that there's so much resistance to change in IT generally, but certainly within mainframe specifically. And one of the things that I talked about is that has nothing to do with IT or the mainframe. That's all people. Human nature is to avoid change at all costs and always expect more of others than you would ever expect of yourself. But it is a problem to do what we've, in fact, just described. And in the midst of that conversation, somebody raised their hand and said, stop, stop. And it was a customer. And the customer said this, and I think it kind of sums up this whole survey. He said that, if you're going to get application development throughput on the mainframe to improve, and you're going to get increased agility, the first thing you have to have is courage. You have to have courage to slow down at least a bit so that you can bring forward your leadership skills, your drive to affect process, get more agile and iterative, to affect these tool sets, and then start doing some, taking some of these ideas, putting them into iterative efforts, stories and epics, that you can actually cycle through some of this process and have some successes as a result. And through that iterative process, behaviors start to change, culture starts to change. And it's through those things, and slowing down and driving leadership by example, doing some iterations that gets culture to come out the other end, and then you're going to get orders of magnitude improvement relative to throughput and agility on the mainframe. That's the only way that it can be done. And he said to do anything other than that is to have each day get nothing more than harder at running in place to not move. It's your choice. But you got to have the courage, and you got to have the leadership by example to affect change. And I think that really sums up the findings of the paper.
Good advice, Chris. Unlocking the value of the mainframe is foundational to a hyper-competitive world where we are being disrupted every day, and DevOps is just as relevant on the mainframe to drive velocity and quality and supporting business agility as it is in distributed systems. Chris, this has been a great discussion on unlocking the value of the mainframe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.